welcome back to the channel. This beautiful piece of machinery behind me is my 1959 John Deere 830 Industrial. This is a tractor that we ended up pulling from a field about an hour away from where we are now. And if you haven't watched the previous videos, we were able to get the diesel engine running. And in the last video, I actually got the pony motor running. I put links to those videos in the description of this video, so you can go back and you can watch those if you haven't. But in that last video, one of the issues that I ran into was with the pony motor. Once it was running, the Bendix gear, which is what starts the big diesel engine, something inside of this transmission is stuck because that Bendix gear is constantly spinning. So that's what I'm going to be doing in this video, is taking a look inside of the transmission of the pony motor, trying to identify what's causing that Bendix gear to spin constantly. The other thing I got to do is the carburetor on the pony motor seems to leak fuel. The needle and the seat don't shut the gas off exactly, or maybe the float isn't set right. And because of that, fuel is allowed to leak up and drain down into the engine, and we got to keep that from happening, because any fuel that leaks down into the engine will then drain down into the crankcase and contaminate my oil in the crankcase of the pony motor. And since you only have like a quart of oil, any small amount of contamination really can cause problems with lubrication and things like that. So you got to keep that oil clean. So I'm going to fix that, make sure that my carburetor doesn't leak. And then I'm going to change the oil also in the pony motor, drain that down into the big diesel engine, and then I'm going to drain the big diesel engine's motor oil and get a fresh filter and fresh oil in that. So let's take a look more closely here and see what we've got.
Now, we had this apart last time, but obviously we didn't fix it. So let's try this again and see what the issue is and why this needle and seat is not sealing and shutting the gas off. Let's be careful so we don't break the gasket. Okay, here's my parts carburetor, and the float that is on this is like a newer style plastic type. And this one is old, and I don't know, it might even have a hole in it. So I'm going to take that float off, and I'm going to go do a bubble test and see if this has a hole in it. And I might just go ahead and swap the needle and seat and the float with this one, because this one looks newer. And I know that this has an issue, so I might just do that right now. Okay, let's see if this has a leak. No leaks. But you can see it does float a lot lower than that other one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use this black plasticky one. I think it might help solve the problem that we're seeing. So in addition to changing the floats, I'm also changing the needles and the seat here. One reason is because this one is kind of like rubber tipped. This was out of my parts carburetor, so I'm going to put that one here into this carburetor, because I think it will also do a little bit better job than this one, which was the one I was using. This just steel. And so I'm thinking that this one with that rubbery tip will help seal off a little bit better. I've got the float installed and I've got it adjusted. It's pretty close to being at 1 1/8 inches, but it's a little bit off. Actually, it might be right on. Let's reinstall this and see if the carburetor leaks. So I've got the fuel reconnected and I've got the carburetor just kind of propped here. I'm gonna go turn the fuel on and hopefully we don't see fuel dribbling out the bottom of that carburetor. So it's been 10 minutes and this carburetor hasn't leaked a drop. And I filled the pony motor tank all the way full, so it has plenty of fuel in there and it's not leaking. So that is fantastic. Now that I've got the carburetor so that it doesn't leak, I want to change the oil. However, before I change the oil, I'm going to pop these valve covers off, and I'm going to make sure that there's a little passageway in the bottom corner of the heads that allows the oil from the head that comes up here to lubricate the rockers. There's a little hole that allows all of that oil to go back down into the bottom of the crankcase. And I was told that sometimes those little holes can get plugged, and so then the top end of the engine gets full, and that causes it to burn oil. And if you remember, last time I started this, I was burning a lot of oil. So we're gonna just check that out, clean that out with carburetor cleaner, and then after I get all of that clean, then I'm going to change the oil, and that way any contaminant like carb cleaner or WD-40 or whatever I use to clean those passageways gets drained out with the old oil, and I'm starting out fresh. I just got to get as much dirt away from this as possible, so then I'm not getting dirt down inside of the heads. Okay, let's go ahead and, are these 7/16? Yeah, they are. Okay, let's go ahead and pop these guys off and see inside that valve cover. There we go. Not bad. It's not dirty in there at all. So here we are up inside the valve cover, and it's not too dirty. No rust. Everything seems to be clean. And if you look in this very back corner, that's really hard to see. Right there. That's where the hole is that allows oil to drain from up here in the head back down into the crankcase. Okay, I'm going to try to show you this. I'm going to put the hose with the tube of this WD-40 down that little hole, fill it up, and you can just see it drains right back down into the crankcase. So that's good. I went ahead and I adjusted all the valves. So when one valve is open, fully open, then you adjust the other valve to a clearance of 6 to 8 thousandths of an inch. So I just did that for all 4 of these valves. Now let's go over to this other side. It's a little bit dirtier because it's on the back side of the engine, but let's do the same thing there. I don't know. So there it is. You can see, just like the other one, pretty clean in there. Not really any rust or anything like that. So, but I am going to make sure, it looks like there's a little bit of oil pooled in this back, so I'll make sure that one of these drains is clear. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to loosen this bolt and drain all of the oil out of the pony motor right here. And I'm just going to let it drain into the big, there we go, big diesel engine for all night long while I I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go to bed. In the morning, I will put new oil in this. There we go. And I'll also change the big engine oil. That took me a second. I backed that bolt out, which is the drain plug for the pony engine, but it still wasn't draining. I would take the dipstick out and I'd still see an oil level on the dipstick. But what I needed to do was I just kind of pried that. Oops, you can't see what I'm doing. What I did is I just used this wrench and I pried that bolt out, and then it drained. So right now, if I check inside the engine right now, no oil. So we can go ahead and we can refill this, but before I refill that, I'm going to drain the big engine. There we go. Okay.
Daddy,
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Harry is right here on the tractor, but I'm gonna run in the house and get me a warmer coat,
Okay.
and then I'll be back right back.
Yeah. You found a rock? Okay, this is. Well, that that was not what I was expecting. I don't know if you guys can see that. I've got a huge mess now. Oh man, look at this. Oh boy. Well, I gotta go help my daughter. I could hear my daughter shouting, and this is what she was yelling about. The wind blew her tractor off of the driveway down over this rock staircase, this little rock wall. Don't worry, Ren, we'll get it out. It didn't roll over, so that's good. Here, let's get it back up on the driveway. There we go. Everything's better now. Okay, I've got that bloodbath pretty much cleaned up now, but I do have one problem. This filter is about twice as big as the one that I thought it would be taking. I thought that it just took the same filter as like a John Deere A, but not the case. This is way, way bigger. And I don't have a filter. Let me show you what an A filter looks like. So here is an A filter. You can just see the size difference on those two. So that's not going to work. I don't have a filter, so I've got to go to the store and get one. But that's a 1 hour round trip is where we are. So I'm gonna have to put this back together and put a note on it saying that it doesn't have any oil. Put the plug back in it and push this into the other barn. And then the next time that I come up, I can bring a filter with me and we can put the filter in it, get it a fresh oil change, and then we can continue on down this path of trying to get this thing to run. I thought about putting the other filter back in, the old one back in, but this, I don't know when the last time that was changed was, and so might as well start fresh. So. Okay, we just got it pushed back in here, and I put a sign on it to remind myself not to try to start it. So we'll just let it sit here for another couple weeks until I can make it back up here again. Bummed, but that's the way it goes. So it has been probably nearly 3 weeks to a month since I've been up here. No, it's been over a month since I've been working on this. So I drained the oil last time and I left everything open, so there might still be a little bit of oil that kind of got down inside the, continued to drain down to this plug. But what I'm hoping is that there's no diesel. Oh boy, I really tightened this, didn't I? There. So hopefully no water and no diesel comes out of this. Just a little bit of oil, if anything. Just oil. But no chunks. Okay, that's good. So I am tightening the bolt right here to the oil drain on the pony motor. Once that's tight, then I can put fresh oil in this, and then we'll move on to putting fresh oil in the big engine. Okay, we'll put about a quart of oil into the pony motor. Okay, that is a tad bit more than 1 quart. So let's see where that registers on the dipstick. Can't even see it yet. So it needs more than a quart. Let's try that. That is right at full, if you can see that. And that took how much oil? So I started out at 4 quarts and now I'm at about 2 1/4. So it took about 1.75 quarts. Now for the big engine, right here. Just start dumping it. I'm replacing the O-ring on this front oil filter because I didn't replace it when I put the new filter in it. So I think it leaks because of that. So Got to take this off, replace that O-ring with this new one, and then re-bleed the system. So we put the fuel filters back in, rebled the fuel system. That's all done. Then we finished putting oil in it. And then one thing that I also did back here, I noticed last time I was running it, that this was the oil pressure gauge that was in it. And the very first time that we started this, I remember watching the oil pressure needle go up to about medium, where it sits right now. And it, as you can see, it's stuck. So the last time I was running it, and when I shut it down, I noticed that this didn't go back down. So I'd like to know that I have oil pressure, and we have this Alice Chalmers pressure gauge right here. I put that in just temporarily. I'm probably gonna go and I'm gonna get this one kind of cleaned up and redone. So, but right now I think we are ready to try starting it up. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to start the pony motor, let it run for a minute, let it warm up, make sure that there's oil pressure in it. Then I'm going to shut it down. Then I'm going to engage the Bindex gear right here into the into the flywheel, and I'm going to restart the pony motor with this Bindex gear engaged with the big engine. I'm going to have the decompressor lever pulled on the big engine, so it will be taxing the starting motor down here on the pony motor, but I'm hoping that that will help break loose whatever down here, that clutch disc inside that transmission. I think that it's just kind of stuck, and I think that by trying to start the pony motor with it engaged with the big engine, it'll break that loose, and then that will no longer be spinning all the time. So that's my plan. Okay, now
Do you want me to?
I want you to help me get the Bindex gear engaged over. Oh, I can see it. It's in. So if you hold that in, I'll pull this.
I can hold both of them.
Okay, let's see what happens. Well, break something.
I'll mention really quickly that this starting process actually lasted about 10 minutes, and a lot of that was just me fiddling around with the carburetor trying to get the pony motor to spin faster. So I edited out quite a bit of the footage where nothing really interesting was happening, but I did keep all of the footage where something interesting was happening, like when we were releasing the decompression lever and the big engine was trying to start.
That started. As you can see, I've got an issue with the clutch down inside of here. It was spinning. So we've got to adjust that clutch. I don't know if it broke loose or not. But I was happy with how well my pony started and ran. So it's just kind of nice to hear the big engine running. I don't think there's a better sound in the world than that. One problem. We filled up the power steering, and as you can see down there, the seals in that power steering pump are blown. And so when it's under pressure, it just drains out the bottom. My dad's power steering did the exact same thing, so I've got to rebuild that. Secondly, I fixed the fuel leak. There's no more leaking fuel. As well, we identified that I got a leak in my radiator. I actually found that out last time I was up here. Water is seeping out there. So I am going to try. Where did I put it? Aha. Here we go. It says works in minutes. That's probably too small to do however many gallons of, like 6 gallons of antifreeze. But we'll try this out to see if that takes care of those leaks.
probably tighten this up a little bit. It's very rain. Yeah, I need to adjust the throttle because I need to just tighten it up inside of here because when I push it forward, it comes back. Pull the pin. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely hitting on two now.
Yeah. It hits great.
It has good power. It just comes right up those hills.
Yeah, once I tighten that throttle, then
Yeah.
that'll be a little bit better. But
And it's no longer has power steering, so it kind of leaked all the
I know.
oil out of the main reservoir.
I noticed that. I'm curious to see if this thing continues to leak, because right now it is not leaking. Well, we've got a few issues to work out still. I've got to adjust that clutch on that pony motor still, but for the most part I'm happy with how well things went today. It was just, most of all, it's just nice to hear that big engine run. It's a project, so there's still a lot of stuff I got to fix, but I am just happy to be able to start it with the pony motor, even though it wasn't perfect. Hopefully in the near future I can get it so it does start perfect. The big engine fired right up, ran great, seems to have good power driving around. It's kind of the first time I've really driven it, you know. I spent probably 30 minutes driving it around up and down the drive, and has no problem with power. Throttle is really responsive. So anyway, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next week.